does a man become an animal like you?
Guys, welcome to a classic film review of 1968's Wild West adventure Bandolero. Now, this stars James Stewart, Raquel Welch and Dean Martin and was directed by British filmmaker Andrew McLaglen. It's the story of a couple of outlaw brothers being chased to Mexico by a sheriff and his posse with a beautiful hostage in tow. Now, I'd never seen this film until very recently. One of only a couple of James Stewart movies I'd not got around to. And it's a film I don't think I'd even heard of or heard anyone else talking about. And I'll be upfront, it's not up there with some of the genre's masterworks, but it has a light-hearted tone, a fantastic zippy pace, and some great trivia surrounding it. Let's take a look. So 1968's Bandoleros sees James Stewart masquerade as a hangman in order to save his outlaw brother and his gang from the gallows after they attempt to rob a bank in town. The town policed by Sheriff July Johnson, played by George Kennedy. Now, the first thing the film will ask of you is that you need to believe that James Stewart and Dean Martin are brothers. The Bishop brothers, Dee and Mace. It's a casting choice that pushes its luck, but the pair do have good rapport.
No, you're not telling me you're too old to be a father.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you reach a time when you know all them things are lost to you.
They're not lost to you, Dee. They're not lost. You may have thrown some of them away. They're not lost to you.
Now, the film, of course, asks us to side with a couple of bandits and throws in moments to ensure that we can distinguish them from the real villains. Martin's gang leader, Dee Bishop, making it clear he's never harmed women or children, or some of his gang members showing moments of real nastiness, certainly in the scenes with Raquel Welch's recently widowed prisoner. So yeah, without getting ahead of myself, we have Dean Martin's gang escaping from a hanging, and as they're escaping, they take the glorious Raquel Welch as hostage, and that complicates their escape as George Kennedy's sheriff has a soft spot for her, shall we say, and is on a personal mission to get her back, much to the frustration of his ever-dwindling posse.
I won't lose them. I'll find them, or I'll find their bones, but I won't lose them.
And so the film's a chase movie at heart, a little bit like Butch and Sundance. The gang are heading into Mexico and not only have to deal with the unforgiving landscape, but also the rogue Mexican bandoleros who will kill and rob any gringos they can get their hands on. Now, like many a Wild West movie, there's some interesting stuff going on just below the surface of the shootouts and six guns. Bandolero is a story of brothers, one who chose military service and one who chose a life of crime. And although they ultimately both become villains of a sort, they do have a code of honour and are vigilant in terms of protecting Raquel Welch's honour. Not that she's a true damsel in distress. Her character Maria is Mexican and knows that she's safe from the local bandits, unlike her gringo captors. And also she's not afraid to handle a gun when the need arises.
Maldita tu madre!
Now, Welch is, of course, astonishing to look at, a little bit too much so, really, as despite being dragged across the desert and sleeping rough for a few nights, she still looks like this. And she also gets to do some actual acting, regardless of the success of her Mexican accent. She has a jarring and heartbreaking backstory involving being sold into you-know-what at a young age for the price of 5 cattle and 1 gun.
What do you believe in?
I believe in myself.
You fool nobody but yourself. And I don't believe you even do that. You really think you had a hard life, don't you, Dee Bishop?
You don't understand.
No?
Now, the movie's themes are mostly about redemption. Dean Martin's Dee softens as he gets closer to the border, his brother convincing him that he's better than the scum that he rides with. I always forget how many movies Dean Martin made. More than 60, I think. And of course, he had already teamed up with the likes of John Wayne in Rio Bravo and the sons of Katie Elder.
Now, why do you ride with men like these?
Oh, I don't know. Just got used to it, I guess, through the years. You know, you begin to go one way, you keep on going that way, and pretty soon there's no other way.
Now, the character of Mace Bishop is a James Stewart role from the beginning of the twilight of his career, really. The grizzled James Stewart era, if you like. He'd been working since 1934, and he still worked prolifically right up until the early 80s. Anyway, the pair have done their share of bad deeds, but hope to make a new life for themselves in Mexico, if only the law and the Mexican bandits would just leave them be. Alas, that's not the case, and cue a showdown shootout at an abandoned village that's actually the reused Alamo set from John Wayne's The Alamo.
July, we're ready.
Now, there is plenty of acting talent involved. The likes of Harry Carey Jr., Andrew Pine, Sean McLaury, and of course, George Kennedy's Sheriff July Johnson, who's tough enough to track the gang through harsh country and order his posse about, but is tongue-tied in the presence of Raquel Welch.
My friends call me July, ma'am. I wish you were one. Oh, well, I'll tell you what, ma'am. I'll be your friend, and you just don't bother about being mine.
Ultimately, though, for me, this is a James Stewart Western, and I'm looking forward to rewatching it as there's a definite but quite odd ambivalence to his Mace Bishop. He spends a good deal of the plot preaching to his outlaw brother, but his morals don't stop him from robbing the local bank on a whim. And in the opening moments of the movie, he impersonates a hangman that he meets, but we're never shown exactly what becomes of said hangman or how he was persuaded to part with his outfit. He's also as handy with a rifle as he is dishing out sermons about doing the right thing. He's that movie oddity, the good outlaw, bad enough to be chased by the law, but good enough for us to root for him.
You just walked into a bank and helped yourself to $10,000 because it seemed like the thing to do?
That's about the way it was, yeah. As well as I can remember, yeah.
Now, the film's director, Andrew V. McLaglen, cut his teeth on B-movie westerns and TV shows, but also went on to make a handful of John Wayne movies like Chisholm, Hellfighters, and also some of those gloriously daft late 70s, early 80s action capers such as North Sea Hijack, The Sea Wolves, and The Wild Geese. Now, here he delivers some solid western thrills. There's enough shootouts and fisticuffs to keep the action quota up, but he also maintains an adequate balance between some light-hearted frolics, check out that cheeky theme by none other than Jerry Goldsmith, and some really quite dark moments, certainly involving the chasing after of Welch's Mexican beauty.
Cochino!
Now, Bandolero arrived in the same year as Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, put the cherry on top of the Wild West cake, and a year before The Wild Bunch and Soldier Blue would shine a harsh light on the realities of gunshot wounds. Now, the late 60s were a tricky time for the Western genre. The Italians had arrived to pay bloody homage to the old masters, and the revisionist Westerns were gaining a foothold, attempting to remove those rose-tinted, romanticised images of frontier heroes and villains, and you can see that bubbling away right here. Go check it out.
We were going to start our new spread on stolen money.
Just a thought, Dee. Just a thought. I think I'm gonna be sick to my stomach. Now, tie him up.